Ayla, who had been collecting branches with her head down, was startled by Cloud's words and looked at him. Capella came to look for her. This meant that soon Ayla would return to the arms of her beloved parents, and the couple would die at the hands of Cloud. 2 months had passed so quickly since Ayla started living with the couple. Since I was on the side of a mountain, I didn't feel the heat as much, but summer was passing and fall was just around the corner. Stopping, his mind filled with thoughts, Cloud silently approached Ayla and bent down to pick up the branches. "Are you okay, miss?" he asked with a worried expression, apparently because he didn't understand why he had suddenly collapsed. "Yeah." And Ayla looked at him, biting her lip. Originally, he had planned to act on his own, but it occurred to him that perhaps he could enlist Cloud's help in his plan to rescue Debbie and Scott. It was a chance to see if he had really taken her side and if she could fully trust him. "Cloud." "Yes, miss." "Speak, please." "I will save the uncle and aunt." At her words, Cloud was so surprised that he unconsciously broke the branch he was holding in his hand. "Because I didn't understand how the hell he knew about his plan to kill the couple." Byron's order to kill the couple came after Ayla took up residence in that cabin in the woods. He didn't have time to eavesdrop. He couldn't help but ask with a shocked expression. "How did you know? Isn't it something that can be understood just by thinking about it a little? It is impossible for that cruel person to let the root of the problem remain alive." There was no need to add something incredible like regression or something like that, so he shrugged and brushed it off. And luckily, Cloud seemed to accept his excuse. "Yeah. I'll tell them to run away as soon as I leave. So just lie and say you're stuck with them. Understood?" She was worried that Debbie and Scott wouldn't make it to the safe house she had set up and that Byron would catch them, but if Cloud lied to her, it could buy her time until she could hide safely. And Cloud groaned in embarrassment. He seemed hesitant. To help Ayla. Ayla, angry at his indecision, stood up with a branch in her hand and snapped, "Think about it carefully. Is it okay for an innocent woman and man to be sacrificed simply for Byron's wishes? Where did the conscience go that tormented you for deceiving me? Doesn't something like that hurt you?" "That's a selectively activated consciousness," Ayla said, huffing excitedly as she turned around. And Cloud, alone, reflected on his words. The couple was really innocent. They were simply unlucky to fall under Byron's spell and be used. Could he really kill a couple like that without feeling guilty? Although he had only spoken about this incident, his words stirred her heart like a stone thrown into a stagnant lake. He had tried to ignore the fact that he had harmed countless innocent victims under the pretext of protecting his family. The guilt he had barely managed to suppress, now rising to the surface, seemed to torment him. "This little girl always embarrasses adults." Cloud chuckled and looked to where Ayla had disappeared. "Oh, Ayla. Why do you look so sad? What has happened? Why are your clothes so dirty? Did you fall or something? Have you fallen? Have you hurt yourself anywhere?" When Ayla returned to the cabin, clutching a bundle of branches, a couple, startled by her pale face, ran up to her and made a fuss. "Clothes? Why do my clothes?" Ayla, not realizing that her clothes were dirty, panicked and examined the hem of her skirt. As he bent down to pick up the firewood, leaves and dirt had gotten stuck here and there. "Ah, this is not a fall. Hearing, I was just trying to pick up a stick and this is what happened." Debbie shook the hem of her dress with a disappointed look on her face. There was no need to kneel to pick it up. It was heartbreaking to see a girl living in a stranger's house because of an adult's circumstances, feeling self-conscious. And Debbie's warm touch added guilt to Ayla, who was already upset. Although it was not his true intention, the fact that he had deceived such a good partner made him cry. As Ayla burst into tears, Debbie and Scott became even more nervous. "Ayla, why are you crying? You're bothering the lady." "Hey! Debbie wiped Ayla's tears with a handkerchief she had made herself. Scott's hands waved in the air, lost and bewildered. His movements clearly showed his bewilderment. Ayla barely managed to swallow her tears and opened her mouth. She needed to explain to protect Debbie and Scott, but what could she do crying like that? She felt pathetic. "I'm sorry, man. I really lied to you both." "Are you lying? What do you mean?" When Ayla tearfully confessed her mistake, the couple cocked their heads in bewilderment. "Tomorrow, the woman who came with me will come to pick me up." "Your mother? The woman who came with me?" It seemed strange that he should address a mother like that. Debbie cocked her head in confusion, but Ayla raised her voice and denied it. "That woman, she's not my mother. The story that debt collectors were chasing me and that my older sister lived in the neighboring town are pure lies. I'm sorry I lied to you." She bit her lip hard to stop herself from crying again. She was relieved to confess the truth she had been hiding, but she also felt sorry for the couple who felt betrayed. "What do you mean? She's not your mother. Did that woman kidnap you? If so, you should ask the authorities for help." But instead of blaming Ayla for deceiving them, the couple cared about her first, and that caring only compounded the imposter's pain even more. "I can't explain the details, but, when I return tomorrow with that woman, you have to flee from here. If not, he will try to hurt you both." He handed them the note Winfred had given him. She wasn't sure if the couple would believe her and follow her instructions, but she had to convince them somehow. Because this time, he didn't want to lose this kind couple. "Where is this place?" The couple who received the note looked at each other with a bewildered expression, as if they had no idea what was happening. "There are people here to protect you both. I'm very sorry to have involved you in this. But, could you trust me, just this once?" Ayla looked at the couple with a desperate voice. His expression was desperate, as if his life depended on it. Debbie, who had been watching Ayla silently, opened her mouth and squeezed her hand tightly. "So, Ayla. You should come too. Hey? If you follow those who endanger us, won't you be in danger too?" At his words, Ayla stared at Debbie's face. He never imagined he would receive such an offer. He appreciated that gesture. She never thought they would show so much concern for her after tricking and lying to them for 2 months. Ayla liked them even more because they were such a good couple, and she wanted to have more. "Thank you for your kind words, but I have to go back to that woman. If not, my life will be in danger." As he spoke, he lost confidence. Even thinking about it, his words were not convincing. But since the curse on her body had not yet been lifted, Ayla had to leave there with Capella, whether she liked it or not. "Wait, now that I think about it, does something seem strange to you?" In his previous life, he performed a ritual to lift the curse before coming to this house. But in this life, why didn't he lift her up first? No, now was not the time to think about that. The order didn't matter, right? Right now, he needed to focus on persuading the couple. "Ayla. I will resolve this matter as soon as possible and then I will come find you. Until then, please stay hidden in the place written in this note." Ayla held on to Debbie's hand tightly, hoping her sincerity would transmit through her skin. And finally, "Yes, I understand. We will do what you say." The couple looked at each other for a moment and nodded. However, not all problems were resolved. "But, Ayla, we are illiterate, so we can't make out what is written on the note." Scott confessed, blushing with embarrassment, but by ordinary people's standards, it wasn't that embarrassing. They had had few opportunities to learn to read and write, so they often only knew how to write their own names. "Ah." And Ayla sighed softly. It was something he already knew from his past life, but had forgotten. "What should I do? I don't know much about geography either." If she herself were an expert in imperial geography, she would have drawn them a map, but she had been wandering all her life, not knowing where she was going, and had never had time to learn geography. With a frustrated expression, he read the address Winfred had written, hoping Scott and Debbie would remember it and find their way home.